tables out of school. Let's gossip. No questions? All right, I'm gonna get a beer.
Okay, I'll start off.
You found one?
We found one?
Found a question?
There we go.
There we go. Q&A. Second row. It better be good.
So excited.
Hi Robert. I must say I loved you when you played NV, The Visitors. It was very, very scary. I think what they did to Jay with me was so much boring if you compare it to the old series, because it was really frightening to me. How was it for you? This is the whole experience to play in this movie and in the series. How was it for you?
Well, I miss a lot of those people. Here's a little bit of trivia. Jeff Yeager from the series V, his brother is Kevin Yeager, who did the Freddy makeup after part 1. He didn't create it, but he improved it. And Kevin went on to create Chucky and produce a movie called Sleepy Hollow with Johnny Depp. So they're brothers, and they were both really good, close friends of mine back in the 80s and early 90s. And I miss, my good buddy Michael Ironside from V. Ken is a famous stunt coordinator from Canada, and Ken knows that sometimes stunts can go wrong. I was on a 4th take of a simple pickup with a sliding door in a van, and the director kept changing things, but we weren't communicating with him, only the stunt driver was. And on the 4th take, we put down a furniture pad to protect the stuntman, because we yanked him, we pulled up, opened the door of a van, grabbed the alien, dragged him in, closed the door, drove away fast. Take 2. Pulled up, opened the door, grabbed the alien, threw him in, closed the door, drove away fast. Like 4 takes later, it's like, what's wrong? It seems to go perfect every time. But we put down a furniture blanket because the stuntman didn't have pads on, because it was a very simple gag. 4th take, pull up, open the door, grab the stuntman, bring him in, throw the alien down, slam the door, the car pulls away, and this time, on directions from the director, the stunt driver went all the way into 4th gear. Well, we're all on the furniture blanket, and we lurched forward and then back, and I shot like a rocket into the back doors of the van, and it was not padded. It was just the locks on the inside of the door handles. I hit them with my face, the doors flew open, and I went shooting out of the back of the van about 40 miles an hour. Michael Ironside runs up to me, and he has a look on his face like, oh my God. And I can't even see out of this eye, there's blood everywhere. Michael has that great nasty scar that we all love under his eye. The great Michael Ironside, which he was sewed up by an Eskimo with a piece of whalebone at a Native American protest of Aboriginal people back in the 1960s. And he knew that you never go to an emergency room to be stitched up by an emergency room doctor, especially if you have kids. Pay attention. You always make sure a plastic surgeon sews up your face, because your scar will heal better. So he took me out by the famous racetrack in LA. He took me to Michael Jackson's plastic surgeon. Michael had just had his whole scalp repaired from, remember when he caught on fire in the Pepsi commercial? So on a Friday night, I went in, they poured me a milk glass full of scotch, gave me a shot, and stitched me up. And I had a flap down like this, my skull showing, 48 stitches right here. You can barely see it now. I thought my career was going to be over. I thought I was going to have to start directing a lot earlier. And on Monday, I looked like Charles Lawton as Quasimodo in The Hunchback of Notre Dame. 10 days later, I was back at work on the show, and I could cover the scar with makeup. And it's all because of my pal Michael Ironside, taking me to the right doctor that night and not panicking. And I miss those guys. It was a good run. You were talking about the new V, and I know I'm droning on here, but I got in the habit of it. listening to Buffy the Vampire Killer, because he tells such great stories. But, you know, I love that girl, the girl that played Anna in the new V. And she's in my favorite movie of last year, Deadpool. You know, you get to see all of her. But I love Marina Baccarin. I just think she's a terrific actress. Now somebody asked Ken something. I'm getting hoarse.
Hi. Since you're playing horror characters, what characters give you nightmares?
What character? I was raised Catholic and went to private school, and so when I saw The Exorcist, that did it for me. It was like, it can happen. You can be possessed. Other than that, I saw Jaws in the theater, and for years, sharks gave me nightmares and stuff. I finally went cage diving with great white sharks about 3 years ago, and you wouldn't get me in the water without a cage. But I just saw in the news the other day, one of these sharks got inside the cage with the people. And so I don't know if I'd do that again. But so yeah, The Exorcist was the big one for me, and Jaws. Those are the two ones that got me.
I think I'll take Ken to see The Shallows. The movie that scared me recently, it didn't give me nightmares, but the movie that scared me recently is a great little hybrid gem starring Kurt Russell, Matthew Fox from Lost, and Patrick Wilson from the Conjuring franchise. And it's called Bone Tomahawk. And it's a mashup of Sam Peckinpah, Howard Hawks, and Italian cannibal movies. But it really freaked me out. But my nightmare, my recurring nightmare, is what we call the actor's nightmare. And you remember the one you had when you were kids, when you didn't study for a test, you didn't study for your algebra test, and you had a really stressful night of dreams about the test questions? Well, mine is, I'm backstage, the lights come up on the stage, I hear my cue, I can't remember my line, but I've hidden my script backstage. I'm just gonna check real quick to refreshen myself, and I go over and my script's not there. And I panic and my heart starts beating and I get sick to the stomach, and then it starts again. It's a continuous loop. The lights come on, I hear the cue. I can't remember my line. I go to grab the script's not there. My heart starts beating, oh Jesus, and then it starts again. It's like that sequence in Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, where Alice leaves the diner with her boyfriend, and she gets in the truck and they have some dialogue. And then the next thing you know, she's coming out of the door, she's locking the diner, she's getting back in the truck, she's talking to her boyfriend. And it's that continuous, agonizing loop that I find to be really an authentic, true depiction of what happens, I think, in our subconscious, in our nightmares. Next question.
Yeah, hello. Robert mentioned beer before, and we know that here in Germany, so which beers do you both prefer?
Say that again?
Which beer do you prefer? Type of beer?
Beer. Which beer?
Well, you know, I gotta be honest. My agent, who I don't see around here, is the expert on German beers. What have you been drinking in the bar?
I can't pronounce it, but I know it's the tap on the left at the hotel.
I think it begins with an H. You know, I'm very partial to some Belgian beers. You know, those Belgian monks are busy little suckers, and but the names are so long, you know, in Belgian that and Flemish that if I don't write the name of a beer I like down on a napkin, I can't remember it the next time I'm in a pub. So, but those are the European beers that I've favored lately. But I'm trying to think of Steven's beer. Steven is in love with a new German beer he's found. I think it's a pale ale. Well, I'll have to learn next Oktoberfest.
Got a question over here, or over there, okay?
Hi, gentlemen. Today my question is for Ken. Since Jason doesn't talk, and since we've had numerous versions of Jason throughout the franchise, how did you approach his physique to convey the emotions? Thank you.
Yeah, well, interesting. The way that I auditioned for the part, first of all, I went in for the stunt coordinating job. And I'm sitting talking to the producer, and he's not really listening to what I'm saying. He just keeps looking at me. He's going, shaking his head, and he goes, we've been talking to all kinds of they were talking to people that did ballet and dance. They're very concerned about how Jason moved and everything. And through the course of our discussion, he found out that I had worked on number 8. And he goes, well, would you be interested in auditioning for Jason? And I said, sure, yeah, I'd be happy to do it. So what they did was they took me into a room with a video camera. They read the opening scene of the movie with the girl swimming in the lake, and they had me wear a mask, and they just did a close-up of my eyes. And then they had me walk around the room. So they took that videotape to Ronnie Yu and called me up and said, well, Ronnie Yu would like to see you. And I went in and had a very short conversation with Ronnie Yu and got the job. Now, when we spoke about it, I said, how do you want Jason to look? What are you thinking? And his big thing was that he wanted Jason to move very, very slowly until he chopped somebody in half or, made his move, because it just intensifies that action. And if you know the costume at all, the only thing you can ever really see of me is one eye. Because in the mask, they have a fake eye actually attached to the mask, so all you ever see is one eye. But they say that, we as humans, 90% of our communication is body language. And so when I was in costume, my posture changed, and I squared my shoulders up and stuck my chest out, and it was painfully slow to walk, as slow as Jason walked. But it comes across, and I remember one night I was tired, and I was walking, and Ronnie goes, "Ken, you're not in character," with a very heavy accent. And it was true. I was just, I was going through the motions kind of thing, but you could see it. So the big thing was for Jason to move slowly, and the other was that you have to be in your head, Jason, in the costume, because people pick up on it. So yeah, that was the big thing. It was just moving slowly and being in character.
I felt real comfortable with Ken because I was getting pretty old by the time we did Freddy versus Jason. It was getting sort of like Freddy versus Viagra, and or Viagra versus Jason. But I felt really secure with Ken because I knew Ken's reputation as a stunt coordinator and a stunt man and an actor. And the irony of ironies on Freddy versus Jason is we were around a lot of fire, and we did a lot of stunts and fight scenes. And one night, out of courtesy, Ken gave me my close-ups first in a room that was on fire. And I got done with my close-ups, and it's getting hotter and hotter. And even though it was a trick building, it was a set, it was still, it had 4 walls. And after every take, there's less oxygen. And everybody gets a little loopy. And they kept turning up the fire bars higher and higher. So now it was Ken's turn, and Ken was talking about his slow walk. Well, about a week into the movie, Ken was really selling it, because Ken's a huge John Wayne fan. And I even noticed Ken having just a bit of John Wayne in his walk as he moved that was there. And it was a cool walk. It was kind of a cool thing to watch Jason move. And Ken was against the wall, walking slowly toward me into a full screen close-up. And I'm behind the camera watching it, and as a courtesy actor, I'm there for Ken, because he's let me get all my stuff done first, because I have more makeup to take off. And I'm looking at Ken, and all of a sudden I see his shoulders start to smoke, because Ken's taking his time. He's in character, he's Jason. He's got his John Wayne walk coming kind of cool right at me. And what they had done is they turned up the fire bars on the wall behind him higher, but nobody told Ken. So here's Ken, the professional stuntman, the stunt coordinator, and he's starting to smoke. Nobody's saying anything, and I'm going, Ken, But he did not spontaneously combust, thank God.
It reminds me of another another part in the movie, there's a scene where there's a control panel and the sheriff is walking by me, and I swung the machete and stuck it into the control panel, and all these sparks start flying off, and they actually caught me on fire accidentally. And so I'm looking, I felt the sparks hitting me, and I looked at my burlap jacket, and flames started licking up the front of me here. And I just looked around at the special effects guys, and I go, guys, a little help? And they were looking at it. I think some people thought it was part of the shot, and they finally ran and got a fire extinguisher.
I also think the glue that they put on both of us, I think that stuff's flammable. And Ken had these little wispy hairs.
Yeah.
He had these little wispy hairs, and I was always afraid one of those was going to catch on fire.
In the room he was talking about before, it's in that cabin when, you know, when Jason grabs Freddy and crashes him through the windows. Well, the stunt doubles in there, they had stunt doubles for the other actors in there, and they were wearing these synthetic wigs, and the synthetic wig was so hot in there, the wigs were starting to melt on the stunt doubles. That's how warm it got. Robert had his makeup almost melded to his face.
Well, no, my problem was, you know, I did a lot of the underwater stuff, and that's a wonderful makeup by the Vancouver-based makeup man Bill Terazakis, who's doing some other big movies right now. And they double glued me because they didn't want me to leak. You know, so they put twice the amount of the glue on me for the underwater stuff, and I couldn't get the makeup off. I didn't leak, but I couldn't get the makeup off. And they scrubbed and scrubbed and scrubbed, and I think I had a week of shooting with Ken, before I had a break. And they were putting the glue on me every day, and my skin was raw from doing that underwater stuff. We had some problem. The Crystal Lake, we had to shoot at on Ken's turf, and Jason's Lake, and a guy literally threw a cigarette in it after we'd been there about 3 weeks doing lots and lots of fire in the lake. And there was this oil slick on the lake. I mean, poor Canada, you know, we were polluting their virgin lake. And one of the Teamsters, which is what we call our drivers in America, flipped a cigarette in the lake one afternoon, and I was the only person there getting my makeup on. And the whole lake exploded like a mushroom cloud, you know, and crazy. Another question.
Would you actually say that the role as Freddy and Jason were easier roles than others because you don't have to learn that much text?
I think she's saying, was it easier to play Jason because he didn't have a lot of dialogue? And yes, it does make it easier when you don't have to memorize a lot of lines. You know, Robert had all the dialogue. I was the straight man to Robert. So it was easier for me playing Jason not to have to memorize all those lines.
I starred back in the 70s with a lot of wonderful young actors in America. Jeff Bridges, great classic actors like Henry Fonda. And I worked with a young actor, beautiful young man, Jan Michael Vincent. And I've done several movies with Jan. And he had just come off The Mechanic with Charles Bronson, the original Mechanic, and he'd done a movie with Robert Mitchum, the great Robert Mitchum. And Robert Mitchum had folded his pages in the script, and he wrote N-A, N-A, N-A in red pencil on a whole bunch of pages, and they would be folded in half. And Robert Mitchum was sharing a joint with Jan Michael, reefer, and they were relaxing, you know, when they were getting to know each other because he was playing his son in the movie. And Jan said, he goes, Bob, what does this N-A mean? N-A on every page. And he goes, oh, those are my no acting days, no dialogue. It says, look, and it's just your character gets out of a car, your character walks upstairs, your character walks down a street. And he would do that, and I think what Ken's, you know, alluding to here is that it's just a different pressure when you have to talk. There's just a different kind of pressure on you as an actor. Silent acting and listening and physicalizing a role is just as important. But for some reason, you know, when you have to talk, when they say action and you've got to talk, there's just a little more nervous energy in you.
Okay, we've got time for just one more. So, this one down here, I think.
How do you feel about making movies?
How do you feel about making movies?
About making movies? Ken?
When I was a kid growing up, I watched a lot of movies, a lot of television, and it was something that I always dreamed about doing. And I knew that I from the time I was 11, 12 years old, I knew that I was going to work on movies. And so it was a dream fulfilled for me. And I can't imagine my life not having done that. It's been such a fantastic experience.
Yeah, it beats working.
Yeah, it beats working because you get to play. You get to be a child and go out and have fun. I think, honestly, the reason actors are very coddled, very taken care of, is because when you're a kid and you go out and you play, you see things. You're a child and you see it through a child's eyes, and you see the game you're playing. You see the monster. You see the Indians. And you never want to lose that as an actor.
Well, they call actors, one of the words for actors is the players. The players. In Hamlet, they're called the players. And I think what it is we most of us have to grow up. Unfortunately, they make you grow up in life. And they've chosen some people, society's chosen some people to keep playing. Football players, athletes, and actors, and we're the people that get to keep playing to kind of remind all of us what it was like when we were kids to pretend and kind of keep a connection to our imagination. So keep playing.
Well, we have run out of time, unfortunately, gentlemen, so thanks once again to...
Thank you very much for coming out. Thank you very much.